I recently finished another playthrough of Assassin's Creed Origins and I kind of feel a bit more different about it than I did the first few times I played it. In this video, I'll be looking back at Assassin's Creed Origins and reviewing it in its entirety and giving my reasons as to why I don't really like this game as much as I did before. There will be spoilers in this video for the entirety of this Assassin's Creed game, so keep in mind if you have not finished this game yet. So yeah, that's your warning. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. The story of Assassin's Creed Origins was a very nice personal story of Bayek and Aya getting revenge on the Order of Ancients for the death of their son. They developed Bayek very well as a character, and Abu Bakr Salim really nailed his performance of Bayek, which resulted in Bayek really carrying this entire story and game. Despite this well-crafted personal story of Bayek, I feel like there was just not enough Assassin's Creed elements in the game. They only formed the Brotherhood in the last few hours of the game, which made the assassin elements of this game feel very shoehorned in the last moment. Sure, there was a Hidden One DLC that tried to delve a bit deeper into the assassin lore, but it also did not go deep enough in the philosophies of the Creed. It was still cool witnessing how they formed the first tenant, but that was as deep as they went with the Assassin Order in the Hidden Ones DLC. There was just not enough Assassin's Creed in this so-called Assassin's Creed game, which is such a shame since Bayek was such a good character with so much potential if he was explored further. This is the main reason I don't hold Assassin's Creed Origins as such a high regard anymore, since it's really not an Assassin's Creed game since they really shoehorn all of the stuff at the end, which doesn't feel that good enough for an Assassin's Creed game. I feel like I had a gut reaction the first time I played this game since majority of the community was saying it's a return to form since it's so much better than its predecessor Assassin's Creed Syndicate. However, looking back at this story and thinking about it more has made me feel different about this take for the reasons I mentioned above. I still enjoyed the story as a whole, but as an Assassin's Creed tale, it's severely lacking. Even though the modern day introduced Layla, which was a new protagonist, she felt very lacking as she was not too interesting, but at least the future installment, which was Valhalla, managed to save her character, but we're not talking about Valhalla here. In conclusion, I liked the personal story of Bayek and him avenging his son, but there was just not enough Assassin's Creed elements in this tale, which kind of brought down the entire experience for me. My thoughts on the combat system have not really changed since I still enjoyed it quite a bit when I replayed it. There is a lot of weapon variety which makes combat quite interesting, as you can spice it up quite often with different weapons that work quite differently. The combat was also much more challenging compared to the previous Assassin's Creed games, which I really appreciated since some of the older systems were definitely too easy. I still would have preferred if they went with the AC Unity direction that they were trying to take in the past, but I did not really mind Origins' change to the system as it was still quite good. This combat system was also very satisfying as the animations were very fluid, which made everything feel like it moved very smoothly, which it actually did. Being able to use your bow in the middle of combat was also a very nice addition, which could spice things up, or it could also save you from a sticky situation. Overall, I really like this combat system. It was nice and it felt grounded like Assassin's Creed combat should be, while still being enjoyable to use. It's a shame that Odyssey took this system and kind of made it a bit ridiculous, but yeah, this is Origins we're talking about, and I still really like Origins' combat system. The stealth system in this game is also not really my favorite, as they removed such an integral part of the series, which was social stealth, and that's what an assassin is about, hiding in plain sight and being a blade in the crowd. It's so sad that they removed it from Origins. At least they brought it back in Valhalla, even though it needs some perfectioning. But yeah, I'm very sad that they removed it in Origins, took away from the assassin experience. But yeah, that's my biggest gripe with Assassin's Creed Origins stealth system, taking away the social stealth. Another big problem was that the detection meter was a bit too harsh when compared to the previous games. It made you more frustrated and actually it being fun. It should go back to a system like Brotherhood, which felt much more balanced, in a detection meter style. Yeah, so those are my two big problems with the stealth system. It was still fun, going around the stalking zones and picking out your enemies one by one and using the predator bow, but it's still not as fun as the previous Assassin's Creed systems, which made you feel much more like an assassin. The general exploration in this game was not too bad, but it still could get quite repetitive. There was a bit too many enemy camps, but it still was not as bad as something like an Odyssey, as it had much more variety in activities to keep the open world from getting too tiresome. The tombs were really the most interesting thing about this game, as it delved deeper into ancient Egypt and gave us some very interesting history. The elephant battles and Bayek stargazing at the stars also helped to make the open world feel more worth it to explore. Overall, I still enjoyed exploring the open world, but it could have been much better if they got rid of the question marks and instead made a system similar to Red Dead's exploration. It would have been much better, as it would make the exploration feel less like a checklist exercise. So yeah, the open world was still good, but it's not anything great. The side quests were a weak part of this game for me, as they were mainly fetch quests that were not too interesting. Most of the missions require you to go into a restricted area and carry a person out of it. I get that Bayek was a magi and his job was to protect people and save them, but they could have at least tried to make it a bit more varied. There were some varied ones, but too many of them were the same thing. There were a few standout quests that really developed Bayek very well, however, there was still not enough to outnumber the bad ones. This really bothered me quite a bit, since there were so many side quests in the game, which made it seem like it was such a big activity, but sadly, most of them were forgettable, which leaves a lasting impression, especially when it makes such a huge part of the game. So yeah, I think that Assassin's Creed Origins is a bit overrated, as I feel it wasn't as good as people made it out to be. Like I said, it's probably because of how bad Syndicate was that people thought that this was a return to form, but it really wasn't. The story did not go deep enough into the Assassin's Creed ideology and kind of ignored it till the end, which is not what we should get from an Assassin's Creed games, where the focus should be on Assassin's Creed and its philosophies of the creed. What really made Assassin's Creed so great was its amazing story, and when it's lacking this much, it upsets me. It kind of makes me sad, and most important of all, it brings down the game's quality. Don't get me wrong, I still think it is a good game, as it has very good combat, along with an intriguing protagonist that really carried the story. However, the lack of Assassin's Creed content has really soured my experience of this game, as it should be assassin focused. Overall, it's a decent game if you ignore the assassin elements of this game, but as an Assassin's Creed game, it's not really that good and it cannot get away with that, which is why I think that Assassin's Creed Origins is overrated. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think AC Origins was overrated? Be sure to share your thoughts, and with that being said, this has been 2367 signing out.